Hurricane Isaias is on the move, and we may be feeling some impacts here in the Lowcountry. Today, I talk one-on-one with ABC News 4's Chief Meteorologist Dave Williams one-on-one. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. ABC News 4 Chief Meteorologist Dave Williams, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Hey, Quintin, we shouldn't meet this way.
Yes, I completely agree. I
like to run into you on the market.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So much for a new normal, I guess.
Yeah. This year's already been brutal in the tropics. We've already been hit once.
Yes, sir. That's exactly right. And now we have Isaias that's going to approach the Carolinas very, very soon. Let me ask you this, Dave. What's the track and what's the intensity right now of this particular storm?
So right now it's got winds of 70 miles an hour. It's sitting just off the coast of Florida, pretty close to Melbourne, Florida, if you're with the geography of Florida.
Yes.
That's a little bit south of Cape Canaveral. It has winds, like I said, of 70 miles an hour. And what I've really noticed, ever since this storm was in the Bahamas yesterday, all the thunderstorms have been off to the north and the east of the center. It's not wrapping it around to the west side. So the worst of this storm is out over the ocean, and it may just stay out over the ocean, which is what we're hoping.
Sure, absolutely. And, let me ask you this. Obviously, the hurricane hunters found stronger winds in the latest flight, and winds have, as you mentioned, increased to 70%, 70 miles per hour, that is. Will it be a possible increase to the hurricane strength since this storm has increased it to 70 miles per hour?
By all means, it's possible. It's over some very warm water. Even if this does intensify to a hurricane, it's not going to change the impacts here in the Lowcountry because we're going to be on the weaker west side of the storm. It's that east side of the storm that's really been the strong side. So it might sound scary. It might look scary with a hurricane instead of a tropical storm, but really, I'm telling you, not a big difference, and it's not going to change my forecast.
Well, that's good to hear. And let me ask you this. Why did the storm, I hope I'm saying this right, shifted as far as the track to the east?
It's been encountering some shear from the west. So the whole storm has been pushed. Do you fish at all, Quintin? Are you a fisherman?
Oh, my stepfather is.
So you know what a bobber is, right?
Yes, yes.
So you throw your bait into the water, and you've got a bobber floating on top of the water.
Right.
So a hurricane is kind of like a bobber. Whenever a wind comes along and blows into that bobber, it gets pushed away. So what's happening is there's some strong westerly wind being pushed into this bobber, in our case, Isaias,
right,
and it's pushing it a little bit farther off to the east, even than what the computer models are forecasting, and that's okay. That's a very good thing for us here in the Lowcountry, and I guarantee folks aren't complaining down in Florida right now.
Right now. And obviously we talked about this earlier, I believe in June when I interviewed you for Quintin's Close-Ups, but we talked about how Dorian didn't have any stirring currents. Will that be the case here with Isaias?
No, not at all. This is being pushed along pretty quickly. Dorian was slowing down to like 1-2 miles an hour. Well, if you remember, Dorian sat in the Bahamas for like 36 hours. This storm's on the move. It's been continually moving off to the northwest about 9 miles an hour. And once it gets off our coast, I actually expect that speed to pick up because a trough is going to come in from the west and push it up to the northeast very quickly, and it's going to rock it out of here. It might only stick around for a couple hours tomorrow afternoon into Tuesday morning.
Wow. And that was my next question. How will the forward speed be with that trough?
It could be hauling. Once that trough picks it up, it could start moving like 25, 30 miles an hour.
Wow.
That's more so once it gets up into North Carolina and Virginia. But once that trough picks it up, it's going to accelerate to the north and east very quickly. So they could actually see some very gusty winds through eastern parts of North Carolina and Virginia.
Yeah, and I notice that obviously we're under the tropical storm warning here, but I think next door in the Grand Span, they have a hurricane watch. What's the difference?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I said at the very beginning here.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a strong tropical storm or a weak hurricane.
Yeah.
The impacts are going to be exactly the same. And The reason they're under the hurricane watch up there is because they're closer to where a possible landfall could be. I'm thinking maybe a landfall around the Grand Strand, stretching up toward Wilmington, North Carolina. And that's why they're under a hurricane watch, because they could have a hurricane making landfall. But really, until this storm wraps those thunderstorms around the western side of it, I don't see it becoming a hurricane. I see it staying a strong tropical storm.
That's great to hear. And obviously, we talked about those stronger, wetter storms that are coming soon. Could Isaias be like that?
No. It's just moving way too quickly. It'll be in and out in no time. I'm honestly hoping we do pick up some rain from this. It would be a real shame to have this big rainmaker come by. We started the month of July with over an 8-inch surplus of rain, and we ended the month with only about an inch surplus. So July was very, very dry. We could use a good soaking rain, and this storm could be the key to the rain that we need. I hope it drops some rain. It would be a real shame if it just went hauling by off the coast and we didn't get much of any rain out of it.
And, let me ask you this as a simplistic question, but the water temperature, what exactly will that be when this storm arrives?
Our coastal waters are like 87 degrees. So it's not an issue of not having enough warm water. There's certainly enough warm water out there. It's that shear, that westerly wind I was talking about, pushing the bobber around, that shear tearing the storm apart, which has really kept it from intensifying. It's certainly not because of the warm water. Thank goodness we have had that shear, because we could be talking about a Category 2 or 3 hurricane right now, but thankfully we're not.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And what can we expect once all of this is done? What in your mind do you see?
Back to typical August weather. At least for a week, we're going to see those temperatures in the lower 90s, about a 20 to 30% chance of a thunderstorm each afternoon. Your favorite kind of running weather, my least favorite kind of running weather, hot and humid. You'll be out there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I try to run about 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
So we've still got plenty of summer to come your way.
So what's the bottom line? What can we expect, say, from midnight on to Tuesday morning at midnight?
Well, and I really think you've got to push your timeline even farther ahead than that. I think you've got to push it out to or I guess farther back. You've got to push your timeline back to about probably 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday to about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday. That's when we're going to see some winds, maybe gusting up around 25 to 30 miles an hour. Out over the ocean, certainly 40 plus mile an hour winds. And I think our general storm total is going to be about 1 to 4 inches of rain. Back near I-95, an inch of rain. Out near the coast, about 4 inches of rain. And there will be some pockets of higher rain, but broad brush, that's about what we're going to see.
Storm Tracker Chief Meteorologist Dave Williams, thank you for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks, Quintin. It's always great to talk with you.
Likewise.